Welcome back to the class on international business communication. We've covered a lot of different aspects of communication. We've covered verbal, non-verbal, we've covered the concepts in basic communication. We've covered a whole bunch of things. Today we are going to start with the applications of communication. We talked about listening as a tool of communication. We also talked about the barriers to communication. We talked about the rules we must follow in communicating effectively, or the rules we tend to follow. We talked about phonological rules, we talked about syntactical rules, we talked about procedural rules, we talked about a various bunch of things. Now what I am going to start suggesting from this class onwards, and I hope it's okay with the reviewers and with the NPTEL people, I'm going to start suggesting some interesting popular movies for you as examples. One movie that I would really suggest before I even embark on this topic on interpersonal communication is The Queen. Helen Mirren, Oscar winner. This is the movie I'm referring to. So this is the movie I would suggest and it's an excellent resource, an excellent example of communication rules as we saw in those clips that day. And it has some very nice examples on interpersonal communication in the workplace. So let's get into this topic now. Okay, as always, let's revise. Please discuss amongst yourselves what the different categories of what are the different categories of rules we use in communicating with people. We just did that. What kinds of problems can these rules lead to? Again, this is something I've not taught you, but I'm sure again the whole purpose of this series of lectures is not to give you formulae. It's not to give you patches. It is not to give you ready-made solutions. The whole purpose of the series of lectures, especially since we are not interacting one-on-one with each other, is to give you some food for thought. Every lecture is designed in a way that it gives you some food for thought, some links, some threads that you can take and explore further. And I will keep repeating on this. I'm not going to give you formulae, I'm not going to give you patches. I will share the resources I have with you. I will share links to resources, I'll share ideas with you, and I hope that you will take these ideas and learn things on your own, because a skill like communication cannot be universal. The manner in which the skill manifests itself, the manner in which we use the skill is very, very unique to every individual. And that is why I just want you to take these ideas and supplement them with your ideas, and of course get back to me. I'm sure my contact information is going to be up along with this course. I invite you all to get back to me with any suggestions you may have, or with any more resources that you feel can contribute to enriching these lectures further. So let's get back to the revision. What kinds of problems do you think these so-called, not so-called, but these rules, you know, the phonological rules can lead to? We saw some. Of course, that was a parody that was specifically designed to bring out some hilarious examples here. What kinds of problems can the syntactical rules lead to? One is, of course, losing marks in your examinations if you don't write proper grammar. But what kinds of problems in the workplace can the procedural rules lead to? You know, what can all these things create, or what can all these things impact in your workplace? And that's something I want you to discuss amongst yourselves. How can we overcome these problems? Some may see these limitations, these boundaries that these rules exert as problems. Others may see these boundaries defined by these rules as opportunities for moving in specific directions, for evolving the manner, an opportunity for the evolution of the manner in which they communicate and deal with others in their organization. I also want you to discuss what the implications of these phonological, syntactic and procedural rules are in the international business environment. Are these opportunities? Are these problems? Are these limitations? Can you make use of them? Should we get rid of them completely? Are we already getting rid of some of these rules? That is something I really want you to start thinking about. Okay, so let's move on. Again, before we do so, I would like to share another resource with you. As I mentioned, I have found a book to be extremely useful, and this is the book, The Sage Handbook of Interpersonal Communication, 4th edition, edited by Mark Knapp and John Daly, both very senior professors, both very senior academicians and researchers and stalwarts, if I may say so, in the field of interpersonal communication. They have edited this very nice collection of articles, very well written, peer reviewed articles on interpersonal communication, and I'll share some of the contents with you. And so as you can see, there's a whole bunch of things here, and I would like your library, it will be nice if your library can procure this book, because and your teachers can help you with the stuff in this book. You have issues, you have inquiry, you have the units of communication, you have processes and functions, and you have the context. And I'm going to deal with one of the articles from this book. So with due credits, with due respect, with due acknowledgement to the original authors, thank you very much for giving us such a great resource for learning about interpersonal communication. And unless otherwise specified, the source for most of the slides is this particular article. I can't put it better than them. They are the experts. I just cannot put it better than them. This article is called Interpersonal Communication in the Workplace, and the authors of this specific article are Karen Myers, David Siebold, and Hee Sun Park. I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. Anyway, the whole reference is up on the slide. If you want to go through it, please do so. Okay. According to the authors, some areas where interpersonal communication becomes important for study in organizations are supervisor-subordinate communication, organizational assimilation or socialization, emotion management, and power and control. And again, we will discuss these things one by one. All of these things are not mutually exclusive. They're all part of the same thing. We need emotion management when we try and assimilate in the organizations. When we join an organization, the first point of contact is usually our supervisors, so we need to stay in touch with them. We need to get a sense of and communicate the amount of power we exert on our areas of expertise, or we also need to know who is influential in the organization as far as getting things done is concerned, as far as reporting to people is concerned. All of those things are interrelated, and the emotions have an impact on the manner in which people exert control over others. People express their power over certain situations. People express their influence over certain situations. The management of emotion also has a bearing on the communication between supervisors and subordinates. It also has a bearing on organizational assimilation and socialization. So all these things are interrelated, but let's approach them one by one for the sake of simplicity. Some interpersonal processes of assimilation. You join an organization, you want to socialize, you want to get to know people. So there are some processes as Gaillard, Myers and Siebold have mentioned, and their paper has been referred to by Myers, Siebold and Park in 2011 in this book. They say that becoming familiar and working with supervisors is the first thing that we do in order to socialize in the organization, in order to assimilate into the organization. Then we become acquainted with co-workers. Then we start acculturating. Then we start becoming recognized. And then we start becoming involved. And then we start negotiating our roles. And finally, we start developing job competency. And I'll approach these one by one, and I hope you'll agree with the stages. Before we get into anything else, we should know about the factors affecting organizational socialization. And again, these factors, this is from a different book by Modaf and Devine. And some of the factors that affect organizational socialization are, the first one is loyalty and the loyalty and congruency are the main factors that affect organizational socialization. Loyalty is the individual's belief that he has a moral obligation to engage in a mode of conduct reflecting loyalty and duty in all social situations, which means I feel it is my responsibility. Nobody is enforcing loyalty on me. Yes, we are by virtue of our conduct rules in our organizations expected to be loyal, but loyalty is inherent. So if I feel connected to the organization, if I feel responsible towards the work of the organization, if I feel that I have the duty to contribute to the working of the organization, I'm being loyal to the organization. I have a duty to do my work responsibly. I have a duty to ensure that the organization is not negatively affected in any manner by what I do or by what I see others doing. I have a duty to protect my organization from any negative things happening in the environment. Putting it very simply, that is loyalty. I'm sure you all understand that. The second concept here is congruency. Congruency is the degree of alignment between the core values of the organization and it is the degree of alignment between the core values held by the individual and the organization. How much are we on the same wavelength as far as the value systems are concerned? Do we see things in the same manner as far as the values in the organization are concerned? Loyalty again is my own, it's dependent on me. Congruency depends is something that has to be judged by a third person. So the organization has its own set of value systems, core values. I have my own set of core values, and both of them need to align with each other. And we'll say, yes, we are all ethical, we are all committed, we all put in a certain amount of work. But again, how we see ourselves contributing to that work and how the organization sees us contributing to that work or to that task is congruency. Okay. Now let's move on to the socialization process. How socialization takes place. And again, once, in some of these slides we are using the word tactics, because these are the strategies that organizations use to socialize or to enhance the assimilation of the organizational culture by the new employees. The first one here is collective versus individual socialization process. And again, this has been brought up by Modaff and Devine. It's a universally accepted, these are the 6 not universally but widely accepted socialization tactics in any organization. Collective socialization involves putting a group of recruits together through a common set of experiences. This happens in organizations where you take a whole set of trainees in and you're put through a set of socialization experiences. You have these outbound programs, you rappel on buildings, you go out, you have these falling exercises, you have these team building exercises, you throw the ball in different directions, you build things together, all that, or you just go out for a retreat. This is called collective socialization. Everybody is put through the same drill. Individual socialization occurs when recruits are brought into the organization in relative isolation from one another and put through a unique set of experiences. And again, this you would see pretty much at the higher levels of organizations or in our profession, academics. We don't get hired by the dozen or by the hundreds or even by the 50s. We get hired one-on-one, and our role in the organization is very, very specific. Yes, we are all, there's many assistant professors. We all come in as assistant or associate or full professors, and we do our work. But even at the entry level, which is lecturers or assistant professors, we are not hired en masse usually. So we don't go through the same training program. And I'm new to the profession, relatively new to the profession, but I'm assuming that the reason for this is that we all bring in a very specific set of skills and expertise. We've all spent a significant number of years specializing in our disciplines, and we sort of come into the organization and we are assimilated slowly. Secondly, we really don't have that much place, the number of seats are limited. Now, applying the same thing to another organization or another profession, at the senior executive level, you would not be hired by the dozen or by the 50s or hundreds. So, for example, an assistant vice president or a vice president, I mean, yes, you would get promoted. You move to a new organization, you're one person. At the trainee level, you all sort of come in together, you're put through the same experiences. But then when you move up the ladder in the organization, you reach the mid or senior executive level, you come in one by one, and you are put through different experiences depending on your unique set of skills and expertise. And that is what individual socialization is. And so, people see you in a different light. Everybody sees you as differently as a contributor to the organization, and you contribute a unique set of experiences, a unique set of unique concepts, unique ideas, unique experiences, unique training to the organization. That is individual socialization. Okay, formal versus informal socialization process. Formal socialization occurs when newcomers are segregated in one form or another from regular organizational members, which means your uniqueness is highlighted, and it's not really a melting pot situation, so to say. Your socialization occurs as you are introduced as an expert in one specific area. So it is very similar to individual socialization, where your uniqueness sort of accompanies you wherever you go, and your differences from the other team members are highlighted, and you are socialized, you're brought in, you're helped gain, your comfort levels are enhanced by meeting people in different capacities. Informal socialization processes do not segregate the newcomer in any special way or distinguish the newcomer's role specifically, but instead use the informal laissez-faire socialization for recruits. And again, a very interesting example of this, a very pertinent example of this is the lunchroom in the offices. You come in, you're taken from one office to another, one department to another, one section to another. You are so and so, you're taking over as the assistant vice president of a particular area, and then so everybody knows that okay, this is the new person who's come in. And then the MD says, okay, you come to the office and or meet us in the lunchroom, and we'll all share what we have, and you can meet the other people who and get to know them. And that is the informal socialization process. You all go there, you're all employees, you put your tiffins out on the table, and you all share and you eat. Okay. Sequential versus random socialization process. Sequential socialization is when you go in a step-by-step manner in order to socialize, in order to get to know about the organization. It's not only social relationships, it's also getting to know about the organization. And so unless you have had an orientation program, you are not given the documents for the by the human resources department to fill out. So there's a series of steps that you need to go through, or you are taken into the organization and you have a probationary period of 6 months or a year, and then you do certain things, you achieve certain tasks, and then you move on to the next set of tasks, and finally you are taken in the organization and given the permanent status or confirmed status. Random socialization is that you have a list of things that you need to do, but the steps are not really known or don't even exist, or they are continually changing. For example, when you join the organization, an organization like academics, I know I have to get a library card made. I know I need to get an identity card made. I know I need to open a bank account if I'm in a new place, a bank account where my salary can go. I know that I need to at some point, give my documents for a background check. I know that I have to submit the submission of my appraisal report is something that is time bound, but the rest of the things can, again, the sequence keeps changing. It doesn't matter if my identity card is made before the library card is made or after the library card is made. The library card can also be made just based on my joining report and a note from the head. So I'm just giving you an example. So these steps are random, but unless I give my bank account number to the accounts department, I can't get my salary. So that is a series of stages, and when my salary comes in, then I see certain things, then I need to clarify certain things. So but again, within that time also we may have some flexibility. If I get my library card made before I give the bank account number to the accounts department, things may get delayed if it is the end of the month, but other than that the steps can be sort of flexible over there, and that is random socialization. Again, we are not talking about forming social relationships with people. We are talking about the communication processes involved in this socialization. Sequential socialization is more structured. The words that I used in sequential socialization are not ambiguous. They are more clear. The directions are more clear. There is only one meaning. There is a clear series of steps. In random socialization, the directions will be clear, but the manner in which you approach those directions depends on you. So there's a lot more ambiguity in the manner in which these steps are communicated to us. Okay, fixed versus variable socialization process. When an organization uses fixed socialization, it provides the newcomer with a precise timetable for when to expect progression to the target role. Variable socialization processes provide no real cues to the newcomer as to when to expect movement to the target role. Again, the best example I can share with you is my own profession. There is a fixed socialization here. I know that the first year of my appointment I am on probation, and so unless the things are a certain way, unless the reports are favorable, unless the students are satisfied with what I'm teaching, unless my superiors are satisfied with my work in the department, I cannot get confirmed. So there is a timeline, and I know it is going to come at a certain date, and I know things have to be submitted by a certain date. But in variable socialization, the movement to the next stage is not really determined by time. It is determined by the tasks. If I am able to achieve certain tasks, if I am able to complete certain tasks, it doesn't matter whether it takes me 3 years to do it, or it takes me 7 years, or it takes me 10 years. I would like to do it in 3 years, but if I am not able to, it is not the number of years, it is the tasks that I need to achieve before I can apply for movement to the next higher level. Same thing with probably your professions also. I don't know very much, but I'm assuming that in your fields, especially in the sales and marketing field, unless you are able to achieve certain targets, you don't get your bonuses. You may even end up losing your job if you're not able to do what you're expected to do. There may be a timeline, but then again, it is not fixed that you will either get a promotion or be removed after 3 months. you may get a warning. If you achieve certain targets, you may get a higher bonus than the others. So all these things, or that is a variable socialization process. Okay. But in fixed socialization, the things are predetermined, time bound, stages are there, and that's how things move on. Okay, serial versus disjunctive socialization processes. If an organization uses serial socialization, it uses an experienced organizational member who occupies a similar role to the one the newcomer will occupy to help groom the newcomer. So this is what we call as the mentor program. Some organizations have it, some don't. But typically, one senior organizational member is deputed as a mentor for the new organizational member, and the experiences that this older or senior member has gained are passed down to the new member, and those help this new member assimilate the processes in the organization. And again, all this happens through communication. You may ask me why I am sharing all this with you. The simple reason for sharing all this with you is the communication processes that are involved in passing on these messages from a senior to a junior person, and we will discuss this more when we move on to the later part of today's lecture. When the organization uses disjunctive socialization processes, no role models are available or are provided for the newcomer, and the newcomer is left alone to discover the ins and outs of the position. We go to the lounge, we go to the common sitting area, we go out for tea, we see a bunch of people going out for tea, we go and join them, we see a bunch of people going out for lunch, some of them invite us, we go with them, and then by hit and try we discover what we want to do, where we stand, who we need to contact for what kind of information. No specific information is provided because we are considered to be experienced enough to know where to get what kind of information and who to approach if we find ourselves in trouble. And again, this varies from organization to organization. None of these things is right or wrong. That is something I keep emphasizing on in these lectures. None of the things that I'm talking about are right or wrong. They're all perfectly okay in different contexts. The manner in which these different processes are used is contextual. So that is something that you need to remember before you start saying, okay, and this is the typical question that comes up from my students. Ma'am, which process is the best? I don't know. I cannot tell you. I will not tell you, even if I have some idea. It is specific to the situation you find yourself in. It is specific to the goals you want to achieve in a particular situation at a particular time. It is specific to the people you are interacting with, to their personalities, to their outlook, to what they want to achieve from the situation, to the congruence between what they want to achieve and what you want to achieve, to the congruence between what your core values are, what the core values of the organization are, and what the core values of the person you're interacting with are. So everything is very, very situation specific. Investiture versus divestiture socialization. Investiture socialization tactic, again process or tactic, affirms the personal characteristics and the identity that newcomer brings to the organization. In this kind of socialization, people say, oh great, you've come in, thank you for bringing in a new perspective, we like you the way you are different, we like you, all of us are different from each other, we like what you are bringing to the organization, please stay the way you are so you don't change. Divestiture is seeks to deny and strip away certain personal characteristics of a newcomer. And again, this I've put it in quotes. I believe there was a play by this name, or is a theatrical play by this name. I love you, you're perfect, now change. So this is pretty much what happens in in an organization that socializes members or that encourages socialization by divestiture, which means you are coming in, and again this both of these may be suited to different situations. I'm sure you can categorize each of these tactics into individual or collective socialization processes. Divestiture socialization pretty much is a collective socialization process wherein members are collectively expected to shed some of their uniqueness and adapt some common characteristics. And investiture socialization process essentially encourages individual members to highlight their unique characteristics and contribute in their own unique ways to the organization. Both are suited. Both may be used by the same person, by the same organization, for the same person in different manners at different times for different goals. Okay. Becoming familiar and working with supervisors. So we are going back to what we were discussing, and this is the assimilation process that we are back at. This lecture is going to be long, and I'm guessing we will have to shift part of what we are covering today to the next lecture. It's unlikely that we'll be able to finish it within this time frame. So please bear with me and we will finish this. Okay, becoming familiar and working with supervisors. When you move into a new organization, these are the different tactics that may be used. You meet, the first person you meet is the person who has hired you or the person you are going to be reporting to. And this has a significance for the alignment of comfort zones of supervisors and subordinates in the workplace. And why do you need to align your comfort zones with each other? Please discuss amongst yourselves. What is the goal of communication? To be effective. And in order to be effective, what do you need to do? You need to be able to understand what is going on at the other end and share what is going on in your mind. The messages that you design needs to be understood by the receiver of the message within a particular context, needs to be effective, needs to be able to achieve the results that you want achieved, and for that comfort zones needs to be aligned. So going back to the significance, if the alignment of the comfort zones of supervisors and subordinates are aligned in the workplace, the supervisors are able to get their work done more effectively. You are new, you find out what works with who is expecting what from you. It enhances the congruence between expectations of the supervisors and the organization and you. It enhances the congruence between the goals of the organization, the goals of the supervisors and you as a new employee. And so you need to get more and more information. You need to become familiar with the environment, and that will help you become a better, more productive, more accepted employee in the organization. That is pretty much what I'm getting at here. And how do we do this? We do this by sharing information. And how do we share information? There are some factors that affect superior subordinate communication. The first one is openness or closedness of supervisor subordinate communication. How open is the superior to me? How openly can I talk to my superior? And that in turn is influenced by what we call as the Pell's effect. One of the aspects here. Pell's effect is the worker's feeling of cooperation in work groups and organizational organizational control are positively influenced by the leader's upward influence. I feel that the manner in which my group cooperates or how cooperative my group is depends on how much control the organization has on me, or how much control I have on the organization is positively influenced by what I feel about my leader's upward influence, which means I will be more open, I will feel more connected to, I will want to talk more to a supervisor who I think has more upward influence. If I feel that my boss is comfortable with his boss or her boss, I will want to go to him or her more. I will want to have a better relationship with him or her. If I feel that my boss does not have a good working relationship or does not have an influence or cannot influence the working of the organization or of his or her higher ups, I may not feel the need to stay so connected. I'll say, okay, this is my boss, but big deal. What is he or she worth? So I will not want to communicate that much, which means that I will not exchange as much information as is required or as I would like to, which means I will feel disconnected from my organization, and that is where communication comes in. The quantity and quality of communication will suffer or be enhanced depending on my perception of my boss's influence over the higher ups, over the major significant decisions taken in the workplace. And that is how communication plays a role in the superior subordinate communication, superior subordinate relationship. The other issue here is supervisors' communication styles and related effectiveness. How would you feel if your supervisor was very meek, extremely polite, but very, very soft spoken? It's very nice to be around a soft spoken person. But when you need to raise your voice, you need to raise your voice. When you need to get things done, you need to put your foot down and get things done. So the person your supervisor is always saying, okay, everything is all right. Yes. Saying yes to everybody and ultimately doing something else. How would you feel about that? How would you feel if the supervisor was constantly agreeing to what everybody told him or her? Was not defending himself or herself? On the other hand, taking things to the other extreme, how would you feel if your supervisor became abusive or became aggressive or shouted at you every time you went to the supervisor found a reason to shout at you and be nasty to you, became aggressive, took everything you said defensively, took it as a personal attack? How would you feel? So all these things have a bearing on how effective the supervisor is in getting things done. All right, and that will in turn influence the effectiveness of the supervisor. Okay, the supervisor feedback, what kind of feedback you get from your supervisor, will also have a bearing on how comfortable you feel with your supervisor. We talked about positive and negative feedback last time, so in one of the previous classes. So that has a bearing on how comfortable you feel with your supervisor. The personal characteristics of supervisors and subordinates. Do your personalities gel with each other? What happens when you don't gel with each other? What happens when there is a clash? What happens when you just don't like each other for various reasons? So all that will have a bearing on how you communicate with your supervisors and how comfortable you feel as a part of an organization. The next step is becoming acquainted with co-workers, and this involves primarily an exchange of information, because we don't report to our co-workers, but we like to talk to them. And initially, when we go into an organization, when we join an organization, our co-workers are our first point of contact. Why? Because co-workers can empathize better. They can it is very easy for them to put themselves in our shoes. They have been in our shoes. They have been in the same position as us. So they can empathize better with us. They can feel connected to what we are saying. And it is less risky to admit to co-workers that one doesn't know something. You've joined a new organization. You may or may not, in all likelihood, you will not know what is going on for a while. It will take you some time to figure out how to get things done, who to get in touch with for photocopying, who to get in touch with for printing, who to get in touch with for paper, who to get in touch with for stationery, who to get in touch with if certain processes are not done by a certain time, who to get in touch with if you falter on your work, who can help you, who can mentor you, all those things. So it is less risky to admit to people who are working with you that you have all these problems. You may think that if you take everything to your boss, one, the boss doesn't have time, and secondly, if you take all these things to your boss, the boss may think that you are inefficient, that you don't know your work, and the boss may start questioning his or her decision to have hired you. Some strategies new members use to obtain information from their co-workers. How do we get information from our co-workers? The first one is overt, directly asking a question. Who can give me more paper? I need a red pen, I need a blue pen, I need a green pen, I need a ruler. Who can give me stationery? I need a cup of tea to stay awake. I'm tired, I would like to have a cup of tea to continue. Who can I contact? I have not received my salary. Who should I contact? There's been some sort of a deduction on my salary that I don't understand. Who should I contact? Or I've got more money than I think I should have. Who do I need to contact for clarifications? So simple questions. That is one. Indirect is involving non-interrogative questions. You go about things in a roundabout manner. So you say, oh great, you're back from leave, or you are, I didn't see you around in your office. Where were you? I thought I saw you in the boss's cabin. What was going on? So you approach things in a roundabout manner. I saw three of you go out together and you were laughing about something. Do you have some positive news to share? It'll be nice to know. Even I want to feel happy with you. That's an indirect manner of getting some information from people. Third party, seeking information from a substitute source. You ask the peon. You ask the helpers in the office. Acha, you're taking this big stack of files for somebody. Who are you taking this for? What is the file? What is the name on the file? Why are you taking this? Who is sitting in the boss's office? How long have they been sitting there? So that is third party information. Testing your limits. Creating a situation to which information targets must respond about whether the member has broken a norm, which means you sort of you push your way, and you say, well, oh, I'm sorry, I couldn't finish this, and the boss says, no problem, you can submit the report tomorrow. But boss, tomorrow I have a meeting in my with my child's teacher, I cannot come tomorrow. In that case, you can submit it by day after tomorrow. But boss, I need to take some leave, something is going on, I have something else coming up. So you keep pushing your limits, and finally the boss says, well, if you're not able to submit it by the end of the week, you could be called for an explanation, or if you're so busy, I may need to hand over this work to somebody else. And all you want to know is what are the consequences of you not being able to finish a particular piece of work. But you keep pushing your limits, and you keep saying, I have this and this and this is coming in, and what happens if things go wrong? What happens if I cannot resolve? So you keep asking these indirect questions till the boss is pushed into a corner, or till your colleague is pushed into a corner and ultimately ends up giving you the information you want. Disguising conversations, concealing information seeking within another conversation. So you say, great, it's nice that we've all, or a group of you have decided to go to this particular place for a conference. What is going on at the conference? You're all going to, say, New Delhi for a conference. And so you'll say, oh, you're going to the center, but there are lots of people there, New Delhi is the hub of all kinds of activity, and there are lots of opportunities. And I have heard that a new branch of another better organization has come up in New Delhi. So, and I believe it is in the same colony as the one that you're going to, or in the same area that as the one that you're going to, or maybe they're having, or isn't such and such organization having a an exhibition in the India Habitat Center, for example. And so you're going to be at the India Habitat Center, so you'll definitely go. Come on, you will definitely go there. So that is, so you sort of push the person into a spot, and even if they don't have any intention of sharing that information with you, you sort of get the information out. Again, I'm not saying you will do it. These are some of the tactics that people use to get information from people, especially when they join an organization. Different points, different tactics are used. None is good, none is bad. They are all situation specific. Use your own judgment, use your own ethical standards to decide what works for you, what you feel comfortable with. I cannot give you a definition on what is right, appropriate, what is wrong and inappropriate. All right. Observation. With all these glass cabins, feeling really insecure, the whole day we sit and watch who goes into the boss's office and who comes out, and how much time do they spend there. Or when files are being taken from one table to the other, we sort of slyly walk past the person carrying the files and try and read the name on the files, and sort of just sitting in one side. Or a meeting is going on in a common area and you just go take your cup of tea and just sit in one corner. Your ears are on the meeting and your eyes are on your cup of tea, but you're listening to what is going on in the meeting. Surveillance, using retrospective sense making to draw conclusions based on observations, both past and present. So what do? You connect using your own sense of logic and reasoning. You try and connect the past experiences, the past events, and come up with a decision, a conclusion on what has happened, and that is surveillance. Okay, some implications of becoming acquainted with co-workers. The first one here is for new employees is getting the information. If we become acquainted with our co-workers, we know what they're doing, we know what they're sort of up to. We can get information. It's very nice to get information about the organization that we are in. It shapes our attitudes regarding our work and organization. I know what the organization is about. I know what is being said. I know what is being discussed. So it shapes my attitudes regarding work and organization. It eases learning work tasks. Whenever I join a new organization, there are some things that I don't know about the job. Obviously, I may be an expert at what I do, but the organizational culture may be different. I don't know what to expect from my co-workers. I don't know how they respond to different situations. So it becomes, work tasks are not only things on paper that I need to do or things that I need to do alone. Work tasks also include working in teams, getting information, responding to queries, getting information, giving information, sharing resources, all of those things. And talking to my co-workers will help make that easier. Formal and informal networks, again, I don't think I need to emphasize on this. This is pretty obvious. Support and friendship, again, we are all social creatures. We need somebody who we can talk to informally. We need some support. We need somebody who can help us in different situations, and we need somebody who can pat us on the back when we've done something nice. The boss may not have time to do so, but it's nice to share some good news over a cup of tea or coffee with a colleague you're friends with, and both of you feel happy for each other. So the implications for older employees in the organization about when people become acquainted with co-workers are, it just leads to more cohesion within the employees. It helps with the alignment of comfort zones with each other. For the organization, if people are bonded with each other, people talk to each other, people get information, people develop some sort of an alignment of comfort zones within the organization, with each other and with the organization, it reduces the turnover in the organization. They start feeling like a part of the organization. Cohesion of employees, they work better with teams. It may, on the negative side, also lead to biases. We say ignorance is bliss, and the more you know each other, the more you start discovering things that you don't like about each other or about the work that each other engages in. So that can lead to some biases. Personality differences and relational disengagement is another negative impact that becoming acquainted with co-workers can have. This is connected with biases. I don't like somebody, I refuse to work with somebody, I refuse to exchange information, and that creates a barrier in my effectiveness, or that creates a problem for my effectiveness in the organization and for the organization to keep me as an employee also. So that is employee disengagement. Okay. Acculturation. We've talked about culture. Now let's move on to acculturation. Acculturation involves learning about and accepting the culture of a place or organization. And this means that just taking in the culture and acting in manners appropriate to the culture of the organization. With respect to organizational communication, this relates specifically to learning the norms of the organization and how things get done within their respective organizations. It helps the members understand how we view and value our customers, the community, our competitors, and ourselves. So we get involved in the organization, we figure out what we can do in order to how we respond to our customers, what we feel about our customers, what we feel about the community, what we feel about our organization, what we feel about our competitors, and what we feel about our roles in the particular organization. And this is a very, very important part of interpersonal communication in the workplace, and a very important part of getting to know about the workplace. Some factors affecting organizational acculturation are one is the co-workers' job satisfaction, which is influenced by the day-to-day discourse about topics such as how workers are treated by supervisors, whether organizational policies are fair, and whether compensation is deemed adequate for work. So we come to know more about what is going on in the organization. We can define our satisfaction based on what other people say about what is going on in the organization and about the fairness or unfairness of certain things. Solitary versus teamwork in performing tasks, whether we do our tasks or whether we alone or whether we do them in teams determines how acculturated, how connected we feel to the organization. Use of technology for official work again depends on our comfort levels. With special technology depends on the relative comfort levels of the others in the organization, and that helps us become more and more involved or feel connected to the organization. Interactional patterns are another thing that we talk about when we talk about factors affecting organizational acculturation. That is the manners in which we communicate with our co-workers determines the manner in which we take in the culture of the organization or connect with the culture of the organization. Intercultural attitudes regarding co-workers, superiors and subordinates, again depending on what we feel about the different backgrounds of our people, depending upon how we feel about where our co-workers and superiors and subordinates are coming from, we develop certain attitudes. We already come with certain biases, and we those biases and attitudes are modified or adapted to suit the situation, but they have an impact on how well we get into the organization and how connected we feel with the organization. Some implications of acculturation for individuals. It helps me define my comfort zones, my personal comfort zone within the organization. It also helps me become more effective at work or less effective. It impacts my effectiveness at work. For organizations, organizational identification as value congruence between member and organizations. How much I identify with the organization and how congruent my values are with the organization will determine how connected I feel with the organization. Articulated dissent. If I get acculturated, if I feel involved, if I feel connected with the other members of the organization, it may lead to proactive dissent with the objective of rectifying the problem, which means that if we are together, if we are thinking along the same lines, if we are on the same wavelength, people get together and solve a problem in a mutually acceptable manner. Even the problems you say, okay, I don't agree with X, I don't agree with this, let's get together and come up with a way of rectifying this. So that is what this means. And gossip, interesting topic. Gossip has been defined as the healing talk that connects intimately to one another in communication based on community. Skill building talk as we compare our behaviors to others, and disempowering or empowering talk that evokes feeling of dominance for gossiper and subordination of gossipy. I want you to think about this, and we'll talk more about this, but we all know what gossip is, right? So we will discuss this next time. We don't have very much time. I'll finish this portion and then we can do the rest next time. Some purposes of gossip. Gossip is actually just informal talk that we share through like-minded people in the organization. Some purposes that gossip serves in an organization: it can discreetly inform newcomers about other members of the organization, which can be an invaluable part of socialization. It can be an indirect guide about values and behavioral norms of the organization. So it will help you figure out what is acceptable, what is not acceptable in the organization, and it can help you learn about the gossip climate. Who says what? Who is the hub of gossip? Where does the gossip start from? Who starts it? Who shares it? Who sends it across? So all that stuff you can learn about the organization, and how this, you can also get a sense of how this gossip can be used in the organization and to your best advantage. And I'm going to stop here. This lecture is much longer, but I'm going to stop here for the day, and I want you to think about the things we have discussed, and we will continue this in the next class. And I definitely want you to think about this particular sentence, this particular definition of gossip: healing talk that connects intimately to one another in communication based on community. Skill building talk as we compare our behaviors to others, and empowering or disempowering talk that evokes feelings of dominance for gossiper and subordination of gossipy. And we will discuss this next time. All the best. Have a nice day.